Oh, Rick Hale. It's not Mojo Monday, but it feels like a Monday. How are you? Oh, I can't hear you. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Somebody can hear me. Hey, Tammy.
Hey,
All
how are you?
right. So Rick's microphone's broken and he hurt himself this morning, but he looks good. So that's good.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, sir.
Yeah, I did pull a muscle, but we're rolling.
Well, anyway, Mojo Monday is in the morning and industry update is in the afternoon. I am excited to get going. Rick, I mean, you've been in real estate how many years now?
25, 6 years. Yeah.
Okay, so real estate never looks like a straight line. Even if it's going up or down, it never looks like a straight line. It's very much a squiggly line, if you will, right?
Correct.
What's your experience around just real estate shifting and changing markets and hot market, cold market, 1 month, how do you think about it? How do you thrive regardless, right?
Well, I mean, the secret sauce is always information. And the reality of information is that sometimes it's absolutely empirical data that leads you down a path of certainty. And sometimes it's information that there are anomalies. When the last market crash occurred in 08, 9, and 10, I thought it was a year, maybe two, to cleanse and move on. And 4 years later, we were still suffering. So there were dynamics in that shift that are different than the shift that we're having discussions around today. So, again, it's about understanding the numbers and paying attention to indicators. It's also about affordability and supply and demand. The third piece of it is it's a local service business driven by local real estates with their, knowledge and base. And it's micro markets that really drive valuation. It's not, there are global conversations, but ultimately each neighborhood, street to street, has its own dynamic of how resilient it'll be relative to market shifts.
Sure. And, we're going to dive into numbers and talk about some concepts and some articles and stuff like that. And I just want to kind of set the tone around, hey, if we're going to do an industry update, we want to be real and not just bring the rose-colored glass concepts to the table. We want to bring all concepts to the table. And I want to remind everybody, like, when the shift or the recession happened in 08, 09, and 2010, if we were at 100, we went to 80. We didn't go from 100 to 0. We went from 100 to 80. And meaning 20% of the market went backwards. And to some people, it felt like a full-blown stop, but it wasn't a stop. It slowed down from 100 to 80. And in using that vernacular, that analogy, I don't know that we're necessarily going to feel that this year. But what some of the things we're talking about is just making people prepared for what might be coming at some point in time in the future. And I'm actually going to show you an article today that says Atlanta is insulated against it. So let's just kind of dive into it. But you have our commitment to be real with you because we want you prepared and we want you all knowing. And it wouldn't be a true industry update if we only talked about the fun stuff, right? But there's fun in there as well. So let's just jump into it, Rick. How's that?
Sounds good. Let's go.
All right. I like to start always with the numbers. We've got enough data now. These graphs really kind of tell a good story. So you can see right here where the blue line is the active inventory in FMLS. And if you look at where we're at on the graph compared to where we were October last year, you can see a considerable difference. Like we're quite a bit lower than where we were October last year. However, look at the yellow line. The yellow line tells a little bit different story. The yellow line is closings. And if you look at us now compared to where we were October last year, it really doesn't look that much different, does it? It may be a little bit down, but it's not drastically down like the active inventory is. So what's that tell you? It really tells you that there's less inventory out there, but the demand is still at an all-time high. And the one that kills me every week, Rick, is the active under contract. It's like we sell the same number of houses every week, no matter what. Like we just do it, right?
Yeah, it's
So even though
unbelievable.
inventory might be tight, we're still kind of selling the same number of houses, right? Like this 3-month period right here doesn't look much different than this 3-month period back here on closings. I mean, the squiggly lines look a little different, but the volume of it doesn't look that much different. Anything you'd add to that?
I mean, it is what it is. And it just means that if there are, the other question is a real estate professional, are there more real estate professionals entering the market to get their unfair share, which ultimately might mean something from you. So, we also have to consider supply and demand of available inventory to sell and the number of agents who are fighting for it. So on our call, that's a unique, perspective we have to look at as well.
Absolutely. Let's jump through the other counties. So Dekalb County, look where active inventory is compared to October last year. It went super low at the beginning of the year and it's come back up, but it's still not where it was at the beginning of fourth quarter last year. But same story. Look at the yellow line and the closings. I could make a case that the closings are a little bit behind in Dekalb County than they were fourth quarter. And certainly the pendings are a little more all over the place in Dekalb County. Cobb County, active inventory in October, active inventory now. Even though we're back up, we're still not where we were, but closings, fourth quarter, first quarter, probably a little bit down in Cobb County compared to fourth quarter.
We kind of decided that seasonality was back in vogue and form. And for years, you'd always see a lull in closings, January, February. Everyone would squeeze them into December to knock them out in the year prior. And you took kind of this early spring market to uptick. And we're seeing that in the late December, January data.
There you go. Gwinnett County, inventory is almost back to where it was in October in Gwinnett. Closings, the yellow line, still down a little bit. And maybe that's why the inventory is up over there. But at the end of the day, right, it's definitely a local market. We track everything from Henry County to Cherokee County. We even make our way out into Bartow, Gordon, and Floyd County in the northwest part of Georgia. And feel free to jump on here, the real estate stats, and take a look at it. First and foremost, Rick, is this interest rate, right? So here's the 10-year treasury. Over the last 6 months, certainly it's climbed. A week ago, it came down a little bit, and it's still at the top of that trend, right? And we know that because the Fed raised the interest rate, and we're expecting the interest rate to continue to go up. And that shouldn't be new news to anybody on this call, right? What is new news is what's the scripts and dialogue you have around somebody that might just be a little uneducated and nervous that the rate's going up. How would you handle that conversation? Maybe Joel is the expert. He can pop on here and handle that expert, Rick.
Maybe so. Go ahead, Joel. You want to take that? How do you handle the conversation of rising interest rates, rising prices, and potential conversations around concerns or fears with inflation?
Well, it depends if you're working with the buyer versus the seller.
That's a valid point.
That is very valid. So what about, hit me on both. I'm a buyer. What would you say? Hey, Joel, I'm a little nervous. Maybe the rates are going up a little too much. Maybe it's too expensive now.
Well, let's think about this. Rates going up, and your goal is that you wanted to be in a home for your, and put your children in that backyard as soon as possible. So with the rates going up, it seemed like it would probably be a good idea to do it now, closer to now than later in the year. Correct?
Okay. Sure.
That's a good one.
Good one.
So yeah. So I just go back to that why and then tell them it's about now. And because we do know the rates are going up. And if it's the seller, we'll let the seller know that rates are going up. So, so what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you, Brett? Rates are going up.
Man, I think it just means I'm going to pay more money to the bank and not really to my principal.
Yeah, that's one thing too. But also
could eliminate buyers.
Right. Now think about it. The buyers right now, they're the ones buying your house, correct?
Right.
Now, if the rates go up, will we have more buyers in position to buy your house, or will we have less buyers?
I don't know, Joel. You're the expert.
Yeah, we're gonna have less buyers.
It's less.
So right now we've got the top of the market for your house as far as the number of buyers. So wouldn't it make sense now to let's put the house on the market so we can maximize the number of people that have the opportunity to purchase your house?
Absolutely.
So here's a great question to always ask, guys. So based on the information I've shared, does this look like it's going to continue north, flat, or south? And let them own their position, whether a buyer or seller. And the odds are they're going to go, it could keep going up. In light of that information, does it make sense to move quickly or hesitate and wait and see what happens later if your hunch is correct?
There you go. And really, the decisions there is we're the advisor, right? And I love how you position that, both of you guys. Great job. So, here's the clickbait and the negative news that hit the market. We talked a little bit about this last week. It said home ownership has become unaffordable in Atlanta. But that's such a big word. And really what unaffordable means is that the median income is just underneath what it would take to buy the median price house. So that means in all of Metro Atlanta, the median income is now just slightly underneath what it would take to buy a median price house. But it doesn't say it's unaffordable in every area of Atlanta. It just says the general. Well, we know in certain parts of the city, the median price is higher than other parts of the city, and median incomes are higher in certain areas than others. And that story is just too broad to make a statement that says all of Metro Atlanta is unaffordable. I get irritated when I see the news media that really is probably not the most educated on the real estate industry throwing words like that around, but that's my personal opinion. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily unaffordable as this article states. And by the way, we're sitting at the unaffordable line right there. We shared this article last week, right? So the median income in Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Alpharetta, which is what the Federal Reserve Bank uses for Metro Atlanta, was $73,000, and the median home price was $350,000 with an interest rate of 3.6. Remember, the interest rate plays into that too. So they use annual total payment share of median income of 30.8%. So you realize, like, when your buyers go to a lender and the lender says, I need a debt to income ratio under 40%. Well, that says that the median price house and the median income comes in at 30.8% of the debt to income ratio of that income level, right? Which basically says 10% could be for car payments, credit cards, or whatever else goes against their debt to income ratio. But a median income person that had no other debt, no car payment, no credit card, probably be just fine. So it's really a bigger story than just trying to make a label that says Atlanta is unaffordable, because you can see all the years prior here how affordable Atlanta was. We're just creeping close to the line of what they deem affordable. And if you look over here on the left, we talked about this last week. Unaffordable is peach color and affordable is green. So you can kind of see the discrepancy across the metro Atlanta area of what unaffordable is. And affordable is considered 100. So Fulton County's got a score of 98.2. Decab's got a score of 86.5. Gwinnett's got a score of 91.7. But I mean, you get to Cobb County or Cherokee County, it's way affordable. Cobb County is very affordable. So it's very skewed and probably irresponsible to throw that term unaffordable out there in a news article. In my opinion, I'll shut up. What did y'all's take?
Affordability is kind of an important conversation, though, Brad. It's about what you can afford comfortably in light of unknowns and uncertainties. But most people are locking down long-term fixed rates. And if you've got a firm commitment to your budget and understand, you've got good, solid income, and it's probably less a concern. The fact that a lot of people are selling houses and moving into houses, our first-time home buyer numbers are far lower than they were a few years ago. But, if you're rolling cash in, affordability really, it lends itself to the amount of the payment, not necessarily the price of the home. So there's another skew. And then the last thing I'll add is when you look at Fulton County or you look at even Gwinnett, certain parts are, closer to the city and metropolitan, the Beltline, there are variables that will drive that price north and south, possibly 20, 30% higher or lower. So to say the whole county, you're just using too big. Honestly, it goes back to microeconomics being the story of the day for an expert realtor.
Yeah. Fulton County, just by geography, doesn't actually tell a good story, period. I mean, you can't compare Alpharetta to Metro or, downtown Atlanta. Like, it's two totally different markets, right?
Correct.
But at the end of the day, it makes sense. The other news story is they're talking about how real-time market monitoring finds signs of a brewing of a U.S. housing bubble. I want to point out it says signs of brewing, not that we're in a bubble. So that doesn't mean that there's a bubble that's popped. It just means the economists are seeing some economic factors, specifically inflation, that they are feel like it's cause for concern. I don't disagree with that. I think we're at risk of having an economic recession. I don't know that we're in an economic recession. I think we're at risk of being in an economic recession. Anything you'd add to that?
It's impossible to climb, and appreciate forever and indefinitely at the rate we have. It would be, I just think, unfathomable that we'd stay at the pace. We've been double digit or better in most markets for how many years now? Yeah. Almost doubled since 13, 12. So yeah. It's just, that's the nature of markets and cycles. It would just be unreasonable to think that it'll, things only go up. So yeah. We'll cycle.
And then we've got this article that says why rising interest rates might not slow down Atlanta's runaway housing market. And it goes on to talk about how the Federal Reserve recently announced its first of several planned rate hikes. We know that. However, demand is so strong in Atlanta and supply is so low, prices may continue rising despite increased rates. Last month, the number of homes for sale in the Metro Atlanta's 12 core county was down 15% year over year and down 64% since the onset of the pandemic. However, prices are still going up, right? And here they keep saying unaffordable, right? And really that speaks to that first-time home buyer. And then that 30% of the median income. We talked about that before. But at the end of the day, the demand in Atlanta is so strong, it's really hard to kind of expect it to slow down or go backwards right now. What do you make of that?
I'd have to agree. I mean, and people are moving in from, the northern states and the Rust Belt, and they're bringing a significant amount of capital down, and their perception of value is different. $350,000, $400,000 house here is much different than one in New York City or Boston area or Philly. I mean, just about any northern city is going to be price appreciated relative to our market. So everything appears on sale, even if we're not necessarily feeling it locally.
Yeah. He said rising rates could eventually have an impact on prices. I agree, eventually. He does not foresee a decline in the overall Atlanta market, but it is possible annual appreciation edges down to roughly 10%.
That's a fairly pessimistic way to say something incredibly optimistic. I foresee a decline in overall market that'll edge down slightly below 10.
Well,
I mean, what is the 100-year trend line? What, like, does everybody clear on that? All right,
So
go
I want
ahead.
to get everybody, I want to get the number ingrained into everybody's brain. And if you took the 100-year trend line, what's the number everybody should have ingrained in their brain, Rick?
I mean, somewhere between 3 and 4.
It's really 4%. Like,
Yeah.
nationally, it's 4%.
Well, there you go.
Prices over a period of time are going to appreciate 4%. So to throw it's going to decline to 10% is kind of comical when we know a normal line is 4%, right? So we're still in a big price appreciation period. And one of the things that I think, let me see if I can find the article. It's this article here on Forbes that Forbes was kind of saying, here's what the real estate industry doesn't want you to know or won't tell you. And I'll skip you from having to read the article. What it says is the amount of cash investors in the marketplace buying real estate is a big part of the blazing demand, and that's creating the price appreciation. And I don't disagree with that. And you know, the interesting thing is you go back to builders have done this forever, Rick. Like they develop a neighborhood and the first lot of houses sell for this, and then they use that the price appreciation to take the price and give it a price increase for the second lot of houses. And then they use that price to go to the next level to create appreciation. We talked on this industry update about, there was an article written about the Zillow effect. They were buying inventory at Zillow offers before they quit. And they would pay this price, wait 3 months, and then use their own comps to actually create artificial price depreciation, which is not really artificial. It's, I mean, people paid money for that. And if an investor buys a house down the street for cash for $50,000 over asking price, that's going to create price appreciation in that neighborhood, right? And is that the real reason? I think it's a factor. I don't think it's the only thing causing prices to go, but the reality is let's go back to economics, high school. Supply and demand determines price.
And the only way to really change the dynamic is to either reduce demand, which could happen, you know, organically with a current, you know, the dynamics we're talking about, but it's not going to be significant in our city, or increase supply. And the challenge right now with that is the supply chain, cost to build, labor. I mean, you start to stack it up. The odds of you reproducing your house for what it's worth on land is slim right now. Like you combine your house, your land is probably worth as much as the combined value of the two. Because if you tried to replace, you can't replace a house for what you could pay for a resale. How about that?
Yeah.
My son was looking at a house he's in Raleigh, interestingly, this morning, and he sent me some data and information, 1,000 square feet, 325,000. He was stressing out. It was renovated well, but it's still 1,000 square feet. I'm like, that's $325 a square foot. You know, minus this, and it's on a country lot with minimum, you got to back out the land. But when he got there were two other people there already signing a contract at $425. And you just kind of go, all right, maybe you got lucky not buying. I don't know. It's competition makes people do crazy things.
Yeah, and it becomes emotional, right? And then we emotionally
100%.
overpay.
You could.
We've got a question in the chat. Rick has said, can we clarify the 100-year trend indicates a 4% increase in value? You want to take that?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
It said, can you clarify the 100-year trend line indicates a 4% increase in value?
That's on average year after year after year. I think you meant in Atlanta. Yeah. There you go.
I don't have that number specifically in Atlanta to be totally clear. However, it's a national number for sure. And we could probably do some research and get that number in Atlanta, but it's going to be pretty close to 4%, I promise you. And all that means is over values of property over the longest trend we can create says on average, the value of that house is going to increase 4% a year, right? So $100,000 house today, $104,000 house tomorrow, and 108,040, whatever the 4% is, the year after that. And yes, I agree, Terry, we'd love to find the Atlanta number, because if I had it, I'd be able to show the trend line compared to what we have. But I mean, you just look at our numbers here. Here's price appreciation in Atlanta over a 10-year period, right? So we went from 112,000 in 2011 to 317,000 in 2021. That's a 3 times price appreciation over a 10-year period. I promise you that's more than 4%.
Probably the hottest run we've ever had.
Yeah, but it's not enough data. We need to probably extend the data out about 40 years and go, here's what it really looks like, right? Because you're not going to have 10% price appreciation 5 years from now, probably. It's going to slow back down. But, crystal ball, we'll see. All right. So question is, what's kind of what's the action from here? I want to just pull this up and then pull down the screen share and talk about it for a minute. This article on Real Trends said the Great Reset, why mindset should be every broker's top focus. Instead of dwelling on the lack of inventory or the insane over asking price deals, perhaps we start rewriting the story. And I'm just going to pull it down for a minute, Rick. And here's the question that I'm going to pitch to you, and then I'll give you my take on it. Is it's a mindset game. Winners are going to find a way to win. Talent always finds a way to succeed. And I don't think, right, it's kind of crazy even talking about it right now because we're in a great market. I mean, it's a challenging market, but it's a great real estate market right now. We know that there's something down the way that'll happen. How should I, as a professional, as a top producer, how should I be thinking right now?
From the agent perspective?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to capitalize on the market of the moment. And if, where you're fishing, there's no fish, pick up your rod reel and find the market that's hottest, that best suits not only your style and your aptitude, but the people you most connect with. So I think being strategic about, what areas, if you were going to start farming or knocking doors, be strategic about the turnover rate and the potential for more opportunities. Because again, it kind of goes back to every area is not exactly equally created, nor in the same place or place at the same time.
Yeah, that's good. My 2 big talking points right now are, how would you sell real estate if there was no MLS? And the reason that perspective is important is because the MLS has actually caused us to be very reactionary, meaning I get a buyer, I'm waiting on a house to show up in the MLS to go show them. Or I take a listing and I just stick it in the MLS and hold on to make sure I can handle all the offers that are coming my way, instead of taking a proactive approach to my real estate business. Rick, you made mention of door knocking and prospecting and all those things. I don't want to say we've gotten lazy over the last couple of years, but we could do a better job of being more proactive today. And that habit of being proactive, of how you're going about getting into your real estate business, is the success traits that'll take you through any market. And so might as well start today being very proactive around your real estate business, whether it's database or circle prospecting or farming, or get with somebody in your office, your team leaders, your productivity coaches, a professional maps coach, and have that plan of attack. because that's really how you're going to win in any market. That's a mindset thing. And the second bit of advice that I think is a really important talking point right now is we know that every great listing should be able to feed your pipeline for buyers in the future. And I know a lot of agents right now are so excited they take that listing, they put it on the market, they hold on for dear life with all the offers coming at them, and they're missing that listing launch strategy. And having a really good listing launch strategy actually feeds your pipeline for the next 6 months. And really being proactive around how you launch a listing is such a big deal right now. And that's mindset in any market. Rick, I'll give you the final word.
The last thing I'd remind everybody is, what does one extra closing per year, what does that look like? Because, the difference between average and superstar is probably one transaction at 300,000 or a combined couple. And, it's another $9,000-$10,000 a month, $100,000 extra in your pocket to put towards marketing and resources and possibly support staff changes everything. And so we're talking about one extra. There's 6-7 million people potentially if you keep doing concentric circles outside of the metro markets that are potential advocates for your success. How many of them know who you are and what makes you different?
There you go. There's your industry update.
Joel had a hand up. You got it?
Yeah. I mean, Brett, you came up with a great, observation is that, don't miss that listing launch for the next listing. You got to give me something.
Yeah. So typically a lot of the top agents have their strategy where they list a house and they'll put it in the MLS coming soon. They don't let any showings go until Saturday. They have a specific window on Saturday and a specific window on Sunday. They let people see the house, and it's basically an open house. So if I'm an agent and I got a buyer, I got to come to your open house to show your property, basically. And I create that energy around that house, which, drives the price up, of course. And then I take all offers over the weekend. I negotiate on Monday. Well, awesome. What it's really doing is giving me opportunity to market. It's giving me opportunity to meet buyers, giving my agents opportunity to really capitalize on the opportunity of a listing, right? I mean, think of a retail store like this. If I had nothing on the shelf, at some point in time, I'm going to go out of business. Even though I had a shirt to sell, but if I never kept some inventory for a short period of time, I lose the opportunity of the people coming to my store. Well, real estate's the same way. And, I don't want to make mention of bad names like some of these companies that rhyme with door and open, but they leave their inventory on the market for a long period of time. And there's a reason they do that. Right. Yeah. And we turn ours in and we turn it off because we don't want we don't want to be bought. We don't want our phone to ring. Well, we should want our phone to ring. Right. And, I'm happy to have a conversation offline. I don't want to drive it too long over time, but having a professional listing launch strategy is a big deal.
Well, and it helps you win listings if you're competing. That's half the battle. The other half is, to your point, Brett, the more shelf life you can create through soft selling and soft promoting before you officially land will give you just a bigger net to capture buyers. So that means sending out emails to your preferred client list or the people in your database, coming soon, call if this looks interesting, those kinds of things, just to create intrigue and excitement and get that buzz up so that you get multiple offers. But then you get to rebound those buyers into hopefully a second opportunity or a third that may or may not be your listing.
Joel, you'll hear agents in your office say, I hate buyers and blah, blah, blah. They're too difficult right now. I don't want to work with buyers. I can promise you the top agents don't say that, because they understand that a balanced business of 50-50 is where it's at. And, it's just, you can make a great living on listings only. But you could make an even greater listing if you just did it a little more proactive and professional. That's all.
Well, it's also a good time to have a buyer specialist or a lead, showing specialist too, so that you have more legs on the ground and eyes and ears, listening for opportunity and not missing an opportunity because she can't get there in the next 45 minutes. That's what
Happy
other top
Monday.
agents are thinking. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.